It's a Canada goose. So in a perfect world, we'd see more and more of these. Obviously, they're usually migrating birds, but we see a lot in Texas lately as some people have brought birds down, or some geese have come down and decided not to migrate. We've got to do this in conjunction with the Texas Parks and Wildlife, and so we've got permits for these birds, etc. I just have these for fun. I hope at some point they'll, hang out at the pond and eat the grass, and the grandkids can look at them. I love the planet, preserve the natural resources. For people like me, we want to, preserve the hunting tradition for our grandkids.
You act like you love this old farm.
Oh yeah, I love the land. This place is, it's really a gift. It's a gift that I paid for, but it paid for itself as well. It's a great place for my kids to grow up.
So Kevin, we got to remember, you can't create or destroy matter. So according to the global warming scenario, carbon that's pulled up from below the Earth's surface is the only way to add carbon to the atmosphere. Okay, so it's got to come from somewhere. Because if carbon is already in the atmosphere and you move it from the atmosphere to another part of the world, that doesn't create. So when we think of things that pull carbon from below the Earth's surface, we have mining. That includes oil, gas, coal, other mining operations that are pulling things from below the Earth's surface. You and I looked at the numbers a while back, and it looks like total oil production for the world. Take that, everybody can look it up on the internet, and then multiply that times the tons of carbon per barrel of oil. Okay, according to so many of the models, there are 220 total tons of carbon emitted from the Earth each year. That includes things like the ocean, which pulls in and emits, and all of that. But people that suggest that man is totally responsible for the carbon in the atmosphere and global warming say that it's about 50 gigatons of carbon created or at least helped by man. You and I looked at that, and again, mining operations would account for potentially less than 30 gigatons of carbon. But when you look at the way people calculate the carbon that's being emitted, they'll also go to the uses. So they talk about the carbon that's pulled up, but then they'll also talk about the emissions of the cars, etc. And it's really one string. The temptation becomes they count the same ton of carbon several times, multiple times. So looking at, if there's 220 total Earth-wide, and if the Earth sequesters 216, and the reason we come up with that is because the scientists have said that there's 4 gigatons of carbon increase in the atmosphere each year. So all we really have to sequester is 4 gigatons. And we can talk about that in a minute. But I want to remind everybody, the Earth mining oil, coal, natural gas, etc., that's one method. The other method to bring carbon from below the Earth to the atmosphere is through scarring the Earth. We do that with ag practices that scar the Earth, expose the carbon to the atmosphere, etc. But we can close that back up and make the Earth, the soil, an actual carbon sink. And that's through carbon practices or farming practices that we've known about for years. Were practiced pretty heavily in this country, hardly at all in third world countries. But if we can impact that, we can sequester these 4 gigatons of carbon that are increasing the atmosphere, and we can do it very easily, and we can do it quickly.
Very good. Yeah, it's amazing. Every tree is pulling in carbon from the air. As we were taught in school, they breathe carbon dioxide and emit oxygen. We breathe oxygen and emit carbon dioxide. We work off of each other. But also in the tree, a lot of carbon is sequestered down in the trunk. From the trunk, it goes down into the roots, and the roots into the soil. So the the trees are constantly pulling carbon from the atmosphere down below the Earth's surface, which again, as we mentioned, the only way for the global warming scenario to work is for more carbon to be sequestered from underneath the Earth's surface and put into the atmosphere. So if the trees and other ag practices can help to move it back down, that's the answer to the problem. But the part of trees that people don't understand is as these leaves fall and as branches fall and everything down here on the floor, that's had carbon too. Well, now as it decays, that carbon is going back into the atmosphere.
You mentioned the term pulse of the planet. Okay, that sounds to me like blood flow. I talked about how if you scrape your arm, blood comes out. If you scrape the soil, carbon comes out. But it's funny because that's happening all the time and has happened throughout the ages. So we're given to believe that most of the problems with carbon in the atmosphere now come from oil and gas production. But we find out that if 8 gigatons is the amount created by oil production and the Earth emits 220 gigatons, why does oil get blamed so much? On the other hand, if that is the problem, then we just need to sequester more. And what's bothered me about the global climate initiatives is we've never heard anybody talk about, here's what you can do. You can impact the rate of sequestration. A much better result than just limiting the use of the automobile.
To summarize, man's effect on global climate, according to the theory of global climate change, is that we're pulling carbon from below the Earth's surface, putting it in the atmosphere. So if we can pull it back in through sequestration by natural means, we can sequester at a faster rate than we can emit. Because we know that, we should be able to rest easy, sleep, but don't forget to do your part. Get out of the cities, that's where you see the evidence of it. Go out into the country and if you don't own land in the country, buy it. If you can't buy it, go visit. But learn about it and fund groups that are trying to increase education in good ag practices worldwide, forestry associations and the efforts that they make. We have the solution. We just need more action on the side of sequestration.